Hello everyone and welcome back to me, Shiva Wilson, and my channel, which as you all know is all about legalizing recreational adult use cannabis in the UK. Now today I've got a bit of a long one, and it's going to be comparing the legalization status of cannabis with psilocybin. Moving on from my previous video, which was all about psilocybin, I just wanted to compare the two, cannabis and psilocybin, in terms of their legalization status and like what's going on around that. So comparing the legalization status of psilocybin and cannabis reveals several distinctions and similarities in their paths to acceptance. Historical context. Psilocybin's historical context. So it became widely known during the 1960s counterculture movement. Its use and association with this era led to concerns about public safety and social order, contributing to its classification as a Schedule I substance in the Controlled Substances Act of 1970 in the United States. Now, cannabis. Historical context. Cannabis has a broader historical context, with use traced back thousands of years for medicinal, recreational, and industrial purposes. Like psilocybin, its association with the 1960s counterculture movement led to its criminalization. For example, the US Marijuana Tax Act of 1937 and subsequent inclusion in the Controlled Substances Act. However, earlier fear-mongering campaigns and racial biases also significantly influenced its illegal status. Stigma and misconceptions with psilocybin. Stigma and misconceptions associated with psychological risks and counterculture movements. Misconceptions emphasize misuse and potential harm despite its low addiction potential and emerging therapeutic benefits. Cannabis. Stigma and misconceptions. Cannabis has faced decades of propaganda, e.g. reefer madness, portraying it as a highly dangerous and a gateway drug. Despite greater social acceptance in recent years, some stigma remains, particularly concerning its recreational use and perceived impact on the youth. Now, research and evidence. Psilocybin's research and evidence. Modern clinical research is still in early stages, but shows promise for treating depression, PTSD, and other mental health issues. However, comprehensive research has been limited due to its Schedule I or Class A status, making funding and approval challenging. Now for cannabis, research and evidence. More extensive research over recent decades has demonstrated cannabis's medical benefits for conditions like chronic pain, epilepsy, and multiple sclerosis. It has a more established body of evidence supporting its therapeutic use, contributing to legalization momentum. Now let's look at government and policy resistance with psilocybin. Psilocybin faces significant resistance due to its classification under international treaties as well as national drug laws. Political and bureaucratic inertia also play a role in delaying policy changes. Now with cannabis, government and policy resistance. Cannabis initially confronted substantial resistance, but shifting public opinion and economic incentives like tax revenue and job creation have spurred more rapid policy changes. Many regions have now legalized or decriminalized cannabis, particularly for medical use. Now I've got public health concerns with psilocybin. Psilocybin has safety concerns regarding unsupervised use, such as psychological distress or triggering latent mental health conditions. However, it's considered relatively safe in controlled clinical environments with appropriate guidance. Now, the cannabis public health concerns. The concerns involve potential impacts on youth, impaired driving, and addiction. However, regulated legal markets allow for better control over quality and access, mitigating some public health risks. Now let's look at these international drug treaties with psilocybin. It's classified as a prohibited substance under international treaties like the UN Convention on Psychotropic Substances 1971, creating additional barriers to national legalization. Cannabis and the international drug treaties. It's similarly controlled under international treaties like the Single Convention on Narcotic Drugs 1961. However, some countries have started to challenge these conventions by legalizing cannabis for medical or recreational use, setting new precedents. Regulatory hurdles with psilocybin. Psilocybin's been extensively vetted through clinical trials and regulatory review processes that are slow and face bureaucratic obstacles. Emerging programs are carefully controlled, primarily focusing on therapeutic use. Cannabis regulatory hurdles. Cannabis initially faced significant hurdles, but successful legalization efforts, for example in Canada, Uruguay and various US states, have streamlined regulatory processes and demonstrated feasibility, encouraging further reforms. In summary, while both psilocybin and cannabis have faced historical stigmatization and legal challenges, cannabis has benefited from a larger body of research, shifting public perception, and significant economic incentives, leading to more widespread legalization efforts. Psilocybin is currently on a similar path, but remains earlier in the process due to its unique challenges and more recent resurgence in medical research. Thanks very much for watching. I've been Shiva Wilson, campaigning to legalise adult use recreational cannabis in the UK. Subscribe to Legalise. See you on the next one. Good night.